Meg. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So you were special effects head lead on Oregon Trail, correct?
Yeah, I was.
That is amazing. What was that experience like? I've seen some of your posts and you were out in the elements too while you were working on this project, correct?
Yes. New
So what
experience.
was that experience like?
Um, I have never had my fuel line freeze before in my trailer, so that was it was
What?
interesting. I live in California now. I'm from New Jersey, so and my whole family is from the Northeast, so I'm not unfamiliar with snow, but
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with dry snow. I've never been to like Colorado, Montana before. We shot in Montana, and we shot in January, February. So it was like 11 degrees, super cold.
Wow.
But it was beautiful. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was such an awesome experience. And my team and I really, I feel like we did a really great job.
You really did because I feel like this movie isn't like it's gory, but it's got like these effects that are also very lifelike, and I feel like that's got to be such an interesting kind of balance to strike with like body like people getting injured versus the effects of cold like on noses and on fingers. So what was like your was there like a big research process for you and not just doing like injuries and those kinds of things, but just like what skin looks like when it's affected by the freezing cold?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It we really wanted to, when I talked to Michael and David, who director and producer of the project, they really wanted to make sure that things felt gritty and like realistic to not only the time period but also what these people were going through because they spend the predominant amount of the movie outdoors. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that they weren't too clean, that they weren't too like kempt, because they wouldn't have been, we're used to like, oh, and then you go inside for a minute and you your face calms down. But I really wanted to capture wind burn in particular, which is a lot pinker than usually red sunburn would be. Um, and I did a lot of research into like how there's this phenomena that happens in Russia when it's super cold in certain areas, like closer to Siberia, where you go outside and the moisture from your body literally turns into ice on your eyelashes and like the more
Yes.
surrounding areas of your, yeah. And it's the coolest. And we actually saw it happen. And I took some photos of cast members because we shot on we were on a frozen lake for that scene where she goes under.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to make sure that I took photos of people because I was like, see, I knew it happened in real life.
This isn't an urban legend online. Like this is an actual thing that happens.
Oh yeah, your the breath will just like turn into ice on your hair. Yeah, it's so
That's
cool.
wild. I've had that happen because I live in on the East Coast too, and I've had that happen like going to school in the mornings on the
Yeah,
East Coast, and your hair gets kind of frozen, and you're like, ew, like that's
yeah,
just.
I know. You're like, why?
So, how big was the team that you led and that you worked with on this film on Oregon Trail?
So our core team came out of Los Angeles with me. It was myself, and my assistants Brittany Turpin and Kat Calico. And then we had some locals that came on to play with us. Our hair key was a local. Her name was Kat Dariana. She did an amazing job. We had some additional help from Melissa Austeri. Austeri, I think is sorry.
Yeah.
Put that together properly. Melissa Austeri came and she was a local that helped us out for a few of our shoot days that were like really intense. We also had another hair girl come out. She was amazing. Yeah, we had some extra help from people who there is actually like a pretty like well knit crew of people in Montana too. So it was interesting to like meet all of them and see how they work as a team. It's like I think anywhere that you shoot a lot, you start to see people and you're like, I know you from that shoot. But
Yeah,
they work together on like every single thing that comes through. So it was really they were such nice people. They really welcomed us into their little family. But
that's
yeah,
amazing. That's so
overall it
cool.
was about four of us in the trailer every day.
That's wild. So, what was maybe like the hardest effects or anything to pull off? Like something that you were particularly proud of that you were excited to kind of show people that you're able to do?
Um the the penultimate makeup of the movie is Reese's burn makeup.
Oh, it's so
uh
good. No spoilers, but it's real gross. It's real good.
Yeah, we really, so with that makeup, I didn't know when I got there that it was going to be his full upper body being shown. That
Oh
was
no.
a surprise. Michael came in the trailer at one point, he was like, he's going to be shirtless. And I was like,
That's a
what?
lot of skin. That's a lot of
Yeah.
body I have to now cover and
Oh yeah, I
things.
mean, and we basically used a kit bash of pre-made prosthetics from a company called RBFX, and then I ended up having to sculpt essentially matching blender pieces so that we could cover the rest of the body. So I had to match the style of this already made prosthetic, and which was super fun. And I feel like I did a decent job at it. You can't, it's hard to tell where the seam
Yeah.
is, but it, so the first time that we applied it, it was an 8-hour makeup. And it's a long day then for us to go from 8 hours of makeup to like your regular 12-hour shoot. It was a very,
I was gonna say, like, that's not even your whole day. That's like one
no,
person and you have to do the whole cast.
yeah. Oh yeah. There
Oh
were
my
5 of
God.
us I think, working that day, and like my team absolutely killed it. I like literally I couldn't have done it without them, but because they would hop off helping me with Reese while they were processing other casts, and I was just like still trying to cobble these things together. It was something like 30 prosthetics in total, maybe more, to like hide all the seams and make sure that he was fully covered. And we did it about 5 times. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and it's like you don't even think about like the seams and having to hide that because we don't think about it because you thought about it for hours. And
Yeah.
that's have you ever done anything like that before?
Um, yes, I do a lot of, I mean, yes and no. I'd never done a full
Okay.
body burn makeup like that before.
Fair.
Realism is always different, like I've done
Yeah.
500 Aliens, which is just like you already have a suspension of disbelief, like you're already kind of like, that's an
Yeah.
alien. But with trauma makeup in particular, it's so easy to go into the side of like campy. Like it's so easy to go from
Yeah.
this
Okay.
like molten flesh to like Freddy Krueger, and we really didn't want it to go fully into that
Yeah.
category. So it was definitely really an interesting process, but yeah.
That's so cool. Well, that's gotta be such a cool challenge, and obviously a huge challenge, but cool for you as an artist to be able to try realism and like really to push yourself to making something like that too. Because, like you said, your Instagram has so many incredible monster creature designs, but again, like pushing yourself to make someone look like they're actually hurt. I can't even imagine like the challenge of trying to tackle that.
It's funny, trauma makeups are my favorite.
Oh,
um
really?
oh
Do
yeah,
you have a
oh yeah.
favorite specific injury that you or trauma that you like to design or like put on?
um I I like them all differently. What's really funny is I love
Okay.
trauma makeup, but movies like Hostel and Saw, I can't watch them. It's like too much.
Oh,
It's too,
interesting. Oh.
I don't love blood, but I love blood. It's the
I know,
strangest
but
like
it's different when like you're working in it though, because you're like, I know that this is like not actually blood, and this is like what,
right.
and even though you still know that watching the movie, you're like, but I didn't make that, so it's like there isn't that distance that you probably have working with it, right?
Right. Exactly. And it's like
Yeah.
science at a certain point, the clinical
Yeah.
nature of how we discuss things where like, I mean, even for Oregon Trail, we had many discussions on what color the blood should be, like what consistency we
Oh,
wanted the blood to be, matching it between departments so that like, because I guess people don't realize that it's not just like, and I show up with a ton of blood, like art department has their blood, wardrobe
I
has
don't
their blood.
really actually think I ever thought about that everyone has
Yeah.
their own blood, their own
Yeah.
blood.
Exactly. Because I can't just be like throwing things at wardrobe and have them be like, you're going to stain this vintage piece that I have to return to like a costume house. So they use like a special blood that washes out of clothing. But I use something that is like, doesn't stain skin and looks really good on camera. And then like art department has to have something that doesn't just like sink into the snow if they're dressing the snow. It's fascinating. It's like, it becomes very like clinical. So your
It
brain gets
is.
taken out of it. And you see it on screen and you're like,
And you're like, cool, I talked about 6 hours about the color of that, and it's so
yes.
not blood to me at this point. That's so
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. And it is cool. I mean, I know it might be boring, but it sounds so like it is so interesting hearing about how
Yeah.
that all that stuff comes together. It
Oh
is
yeah.
so that's such an important part of horror, like the
Yeah.
blood and everything looking good and disgusting. Like you're a big part of the ick factor. So I love that you don't like like do you like horror movies, or are you
Oh
not a horror?
yes.
Okay, but you don't like the torture porn horror movies.
Right,
Okay,
exactly. Like
that's fair. Okay.
I'm more of like a John Carpenter's The Thing or like The Strangers or
Hell yeah.
like
Cool.
Last House on the Left. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Love Evil Dead. Evil Dead Rise, so good. I
So
know,
good.
so good.
Amazing. That's so cool. Well, you okay. I do have to bring up the fact that you have helped with Melanie Martinez's new crazy monster, I don't know, look with Melina, who does incredible work. How did you get involved with that? Because that is so cool to get to work and do monsters like on pop stars too.
Yeah. Yeah. We kind of have like a little girl gang that we have going on. So there's a few of us that work together all the time and we do a lot of music. Actually, I was just on a music video last night. But
Cool.
Melina's a very good friend of mine. She's one of the most talented people that I've ever met in my entire life. And when she called me, she needed somebody to come assist her for, I think the first thing that I did a few days helping her with Melanie. I think it was for the album cover. She called me and I knew that she was like, it's something that I sculpted. I knew what she had been working on, but I hadn't like seen it yet. And she sent me pictures of the sculpt and like what the general idea was going to be before I walked in there. The craziest thing about the two of them is that when I met Melanie, so we, ended up doing an application at her house for that day and then drove to the set to like
Oh my
put her
God.
into wardrobe. Yeah, she's so chill. She like is like the nicest human being in the entire world. And I thought that they had known each other for years. Like the way that they talked to each other, they were just so in sync. And I only recently found out that that was like the fourth time she had met her in person. Yeah. And I was like, what? Like they just are so on the same page. And so basically, Melanie gave Melina a sketch of hers that she wanted this new character because Portals, every time she does something, it's like a new era for her. And
Yeah.
for Portals, she really wanted to do something like, really out of the box. And basically, Melina took her sketch and translated it into this. It's a multi-piece prosthetic. There's ears and a face piece. And the whole team, I mean, Brett, who styles her, did an amazing job. Somebody,
Oh.
forget his name off the top of my head, but this beautiful, sometimes Melina would body paint, but there's also like a suit that gets worn.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really like, it's a whole production that goes on for it. And they just all have been crushing it. And it was a really cool thing to be part of.
That's so cool to like, it's just the range of the projects you work on. It's so cool. Again, like the
Yeah.
trauma realism makeup to this like helping apply this crazy like monster creature prosthetic. Like it seems like you get to work on such a cool range of projects doing
Yeah.
this kind of work.
Honestly, like I didn't even go to school to be a makeup artist. I really didn't know until I made my first latex mask I was 22 and I was about to graduate college and I was like, maybe I went to school for the wrong thing. And I just
That's what
started
you're like, oh no, at my last year.
yeah. Well, it was my mentor in college. He was the one who was like, I wanted to do animation. I wanted to be a concept designer for animated film. Oh
Oh.
yeah. And I mean, I was more attracted to things like Paranorman had just come out, and I was really attracted to stop motion and working in like concept for like puppets for animated film like that. But he was like, I really think you should be making things three-dimensionally. I think you should be making monsters. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm about to graduate. My portfolio is already made. But yeah, he was totally right. And it's been kind of crazy. I feel really blessed to have the ability to do so many different types of things. I mean, I'll always have a soft spot in my heart. I started pretty much in horror. I started in haunted houses, and it'll always have a very special place to my heart. But it's crazy. There's so many things now that require special effects. I feel like special effects makeup is kind of having a renaissance right now in a way.
I think everyone is really real is like finally coming around to the fact that special effects makeup is so much scarier and cooler than CGI. And
Yeah.
I think I'm very happy about that it's coming back around because it's the best,
Oh
in my
yeah.
opinion.
I totally
Meg,
agree.
thank you so much for chatting with me today about all of your
Yeah.
work. This has been so cool to pick your brain a little bit about working on the film and working on music videos. I really appreciate
Yeah.
your time.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.